Welcome to the Leaving Cert Guidance podcast. My name is Donnchadh Mahoney. I'm a secondary school guidance counsellor, and I also run the Leaving Cert Guidance Instagram and TikTok pages. On today's show, I have Roisin O'Donohue, who's a guidance counsellor in Go Re-Educate Together. And Roisin is the former deputy president of the IGC, the Institute of Guidance Counsellors. And it's great to have you back on the podcast again, Roisin.
Thanks very much, Donnchadh. I'm delighted to be back on with you.
Well, we have a very important topic today because we're talking about the Here and Dare applications. And in the last number of years, there's been almost 10,000 students applying for each, both Dare and Here applications. So the level of applications have even increased in the last number of years. So I suppose this is a very important topic because they can be quite difficult applications. They can be time consuming. So it's important to start these early, I suppose, Roisin.
Yes, absolutely. And I'd actually be advising most students now, the CAO is open for applications at the moment. So I'd be advising them to log on, get their CAO open. It doesn't require you to fill out your entire list of courses just yet. So just get registered and get their CAO number and become familiar with the application. And then, as you said, the Here and the Dare applications both are run through the CAO website, through your application form there. So they can be time consuming. Both of them require you getting some supplementary documents in place. So the sooner you start the process, the better.
Brilliant. Let's start off with Dare, Roisin. What exactly is Dare?
So DARE is an access scheme. It's an acronym and it stands for the Disability Access Route to Education. But even though I suppose the word disability is in the title, it actually covers a very broad range of different criteria. Anything that for some reason may have had a negative impact on your educational experience or made it more difficult for you as a student to access the curriculum than your peers. So some of the kind of areas that it looks at would be if you have any kind of physical disability, if you're visually or hearing impaired, if you have a learning difficulty of any type, and we can go through the different criteria. If you have a mental health issue that has been impacting on your ability to attend school or to engage with education, or an ongoing significant illness, again, that has meant that you've missed a lot of time. These are some of the criteria or some of the aspects that you can apply for DARE under.
So, what is, I suppose, the biggest bonus for applying to Dare? Because a lot of students ask me about Dare every year and if they'd be qualified to make an application. But what would be the biggest bonus be for applying for these?
Well, the biggest bonus is that you have the possibility to access a college course on reduced points.
Yeah.
So again, it's back to that idea of trying to level out the playing field. If for some reason it was more difficult for you to access the curriculum or to engage with education, what the DARE scheme does is acknowledge that and then offer the possibility to enter college on slightly reduced points.
And what do you mean by reduced points? How does that system work?
So the way it works is we know that college places are offered on on the CAO points basis. So there might be 20 places available in a course, 40 people might apply, and those people are put in order of the points they got in their leaving certificate. And then the places are generally offered to the first 20 people in the queue. However, in this system, in the DARE system, the participating colleges and courses will ring fence a number of places for DARE applicants. So they might just offer out 15 of those available 20 places to the CAO candidates, and then they will reserve the last five for DARE applicants. So they'll look at the amount of people who have applied for the course who also qualify for DARE. They will rank them in order of their CAO points, and also there is a system that looks at the different varying degrees of application that come in and the severity of the impact of a disability on someone's education. And they'll offer out those five places then that are ring fenced to the DARE applicants.
I suppose it's worth noting that not every university, college, or IT that's in the CAO are actually part of the DARE process.
Yes, that's correct. It's definitely worth going online onto accesscollege.ie and you'll find a list of all of the participating colleges. So yeah, that's a very good point, Donica.
Yeah, and you just mentioned there, Roisin, accesscollege.ie. It's a brilliant website. It gives you everything you need to know about both of these applications, and I'd highly recommend that if you're a DARE or HERE applicant, that you definitely go on to accesscollege.ie to find out more information. What is the application process for DARE applicants like Roisin?
So, as we said at the start, there's a few different bits and pieces to it, Donnchadh, so it's definitely a good idea to get started on it early. You access the DARE application form through the CAO form. So when you log on to your CAO application and you kind of scroll down through the page, you'll find the section that asks you if you want to apply for DARE, if you want to be a DARE applicant. So you would tick the box to indicate, yes, I do by the 1st of March. And I know we'll go through the deadlines a little bit towards the end. But once you indicate that you want to be considered for DARE, then the first section that you have to answer is called Section A. And there are 5 questions on that section that you'll fill out kind of based on personal details. And then one of the most important sections, pieces of Section A, is the personal statement. And that's where you get to write in your own words, as an applicant, how your disability has impacted on your education from your point of view. So that's in Section A. The next section is Section B. It's called the Educational Impact Criteria, or Statement. And that is for your school to fill out. So that is a section that indicates all the interventions and supports that you might have received in school. If you have missed time at school, it'll log your attendance, the days you were in, the days you weren't in. It asks you to talk about your school experience, if your disability has impacted on your overall school experience, if it's impacted on your learning or exam results, um, if you have specific literacy or numeracy scores that are below a certain level. That all goes into the educational impact statement. And really, that is filled out by somebody in your school. It might be your guidance counsellor, it might be the AEN coordinator in your school, but your school will sign off on that. And then lastly, we have Section C. And Section C is all the supporting documentation that you need to send off with your application, to verify it. So it might be something like a psychologist report, it might be a specialist report, a consultant psychiatrist, a neurologist. There's a whole long list of them that you can access on accesscollege.ie. And they're very, very specific about the evidence that you need to attach to each specific criteria. So, for example, if I'm applying under the banner of attention deficit disorder, if I have ADD, then I must send a report or a letter from a consultant psychiatrist, psychologist, neurologist, or pediatrician. So it's very, very specific, and you will find out exactly what you need on accesscollege.ie.
Yeah, so it is really specific, the professional you use to either have the existing report, which you can send in, Roisin, or you can download a section C form on accesscollege.ie and ask your relevant professional to fill it out. So it's either an existing report or to fill it, but it's very specific who you get to do it. So have a look at that on Access College. Now, you mentioned it there earlier, Roisin, specific dates. And the way the CEO works, and we had Eileen Keelan on earlier this year, is that deadlines are very specific, very important. They don't allow for anyone who misses a deadline, no matter what your situation is. So tell us about the deadline dates then for DARE.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such an important point, Annika. There's no wiggle room on this at all. So it's worth writing these deadlines down and, trying to get them fulfilled early, like well in advance of the deadline. So as normal, you have to have your CAO open by the 1st of February. I'd be advising students to do it now in
Yeah.
November, December, but it must be open by the 1st of February. And then by the 1st of March, you have to tick the box to indicate that you want to apply for DARE. So that'll be on your CAO form. And then you also need to fill out your questions, section A 1 to 5, by the 1st of March. The 15th of March then is the next big deadline. And the 15th of March, you must have your section B completed, um, and your evidence of disability must arrive in the CAO head office in Galway. So your two big deadlines there are, sorry, your three big deadlines are tick the box by the 1st of February and have your Section A answered. Section B must be answered by the 15th of March, and all your evidence must be in the office in Galway by the 15th of March.
So, what's the
Um,
best thing to do there, Roisin, to know that your supporting documentation arrived in the CEO? How do you know that? What's the best thing to do?
Yeah, so we've been advised that a really good thing for students to do is when they're sending their documents to the CIO office in Galway to include a stamped addressed envelope in with their documents. So they just take a blank envelope, they write their own home address on the front of the envelope and put a stamp on it so that the CAO can send it back to them and acknowledge, yes, we have received your documents and here's the stamped addressed envelope back to you to prove that we have. So that's probably the best way to do it. I mean, you can also go to the post office and request, tracking or registered post, but that can be costly. So definitely include a stamped addressed envelope. It's a good idea.
So, what happens if you have a disability, but you didn't qualify for DARE, and you don't, but you still get a college place, and you
Yeah.
get a college offer, but you haven't qualified for DARE? What happens? Do you still get different resources at university and college, or what way does that work?
Absolutely. And actually, Donnchadh, like most applicants who have a disability do qualify and they want to go to college, they qualify for their college place on merit alone.
Yeah.
Um, But absolutely, you're 100% correct. If you don't qualify for DARE, all of the universities still have supports available for any student with a disability. So that could be like technology supports, it could be extra learning support, extra math support, extra literacy support, access supports. There's, all of the colleges will be very cognizant of that, that all of their students have varying needs. And in general, all universities and colleges are inclusive places that offer support to every student who needs it. It's also worth noting there, if you have applied for DARE and you're notified in kind of at the end of June that you didn't qualify for it, there is an appeals process. So in June, like end of June and July, you can go through the appeals process, and then you'll find out in August whether or not your appeal has been successful or not.
Yeah, students always are shocked when they ask, when will I find out if I qualify for DARE or not? And I always say, well, it's generally a day after the Leaving Cert finishes, which is towards the end of June. They're like, what? It's that late we find out? But yeah, it is. You'll find out towards the end of June after the Leaving Cert is over. So moving on to here then, Roisin, what exactly is here? HEAR.
So here is another type of access program. It offers the same bonus as we talked about earlier, Donica. So it does offer students the possibility to access college courses on reduced points. But rather than focusing on disability, this focuses on, I suppose, socio or economic circumstances.
Yeah.
So here stands for the Higher Education Access Route. And I suppose the easiest way for me to explain this, or for students to understand it, is there was a piece of research done a number of years ago based on the progression of Irish students to college or university based on their home address. And I just kind of want to give you a few statistics from that. So the Higher Education Authority released these statistics, and they showed that if a student had a postal address in Dublin 6, so we're kind of talking the Rathmines, Rathgar area of Dublin, 99% of the students in that area progressed on to higher level education or third level education. In Dublin 4, so kind of around the Donnybrook, Blackrock area, about 84% progressed on to university or college. Now, if we look at some other areas in Dublin, if we look at Dublin 1, for example, right in the city centre, 23% progressed on to college. And if we move out a little bit further north, in Dublin 17, only 15% of students progressed on to third level education. Now, as I always say to the students in my school, it's not like they keep all of the smart people in Dublin 6. There's something else at play here.
Yeah.
So, what the HERE access scheme acknowledges is that some young people face social, economic, cultural barriers to accessing college, and that's unfair. So the here application is trying to level out that playing field, and it's trying to make sure that young people from areas that are underrepresented in university have a chance to go. So that's really what the HERE scheme
Yeah.
fundamentally is trying to address.
That's a great way to explain it as well. And then, Roisin, say for example, I'm part of that socioeconomic disadvantaged area or school or life, and I also have a disability. Can I apply for both here and there?
Yes, yeah. So when you go onto your CAO form, you'll notice that they're different sections. They're just one under the other, but absolutely you can apply for both. Yeah, and they'll
And
both be taken into consideration.
what's the application process like for here? Because it is a little bit different to there.
Yeah, it's a little bit different. Again, it does involve you gathering together some different documents, so it's important to get started on it early. Um, a lot of it is done online.
Yeah.
So when you log on to your CAO and you indicate that you want to apply for here, there are some criteria that you have to satisfy. So the first indicator that you must satisfy is the income threshold, and it's very specific. Again, like the criteria for DARE is specific, this is very specific. So again, on accesscollege.ie, you'll be able to see the different financial criteria. So the household income is assessed. And for example, if there are fewer than 4 dependent children in the family, then the HERE income limit is €46,790. If there are more dependent children, that threshold goes up. But it would be that's the first indicator, and everybody who qualifies for HERE must satisfy that indicator. And then there are 5 other indicators, and you can, once you satisfy the income, you can just satisfy any 2. You just need 2 of the other indicators. So one might be that maybe somebody, yourself or somebody in your family has a medical card or a GP visit card. The second one might be that somebody in the family is on a social welfare payment. That maybe your family or your parents are from, they work a certain job, or they're from a certain socioeconomic group. That you attended a school with DESH status is another indicator. Um, and then there's what's called the area profile. So there are certain areas, like we talked about earlier, certain parts of Dublin or of the country nationwide that fit into the area profile that they're looking for. So these would be areas where maybe there's a lower percentage of young people moving on to college. So once you satisfy the income threshold and you meet 2 of the other criteria, then you can apply for HERE. So you go through an online form and you literally just tick each of those sections, each of those criteria has its own section, and you tick the boxes and you fill out the sections that apply to you. Once you have that done and you submit it, you will get a little bullet point list of all of the supporting documents that you need to send. So that might be something from the Social Welfare Office. It might be something that kind of indicates your parent or guardian's income. It'll tell you exactly what you need. And then the tricky part is spending the time gathering those documents together and getting them sent off before the deadline.
And how do I know what supporting documentation to go and find or present or what my parents need? How do I go about that?
Sorry, Jenny, how do you go about knowing what you need to send?
Yes, sir. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the supporting documentation that you need to get.
Yes, so once you have filled out your online form and you press the submit button, it will actually tell you a little bullet point list comes up at the end of the form to say, okay, well, you're going to need something from the Social Welfare Office. You're going to need maybe a, a statement of income from parents or guardians. It'll tell you on your CAO form. And you can print that. There's actually a little print button that you can print that list out and take it home with you or bring it into whatever the relevant office is.
And then the application deadlines for here as well. Are they similar to the DARE application deadlines?
Yes, yeah, they are very similar. So we're talking the 1st of March is when you need to complete all the online here application form. And the 15th of March, all your documents need to be in the CAO office. So they're similar deadlines, and I suppose similar advice around including a stamped addressed envelope, just to satisfy yourself that your documents have arrived there.
And just on here then, so besides the possible reduction in points, there is, other supports. It's a bit like there as well. So for here, there's extra tuition if required, study skills, exam preparation. There's meetings with student advisors if you need them, extra financial assistance when available, or even advice on how to apply for different grants and financial assistance as well. So make sure, when you get to college, to familiarize yourself with the access office and the people there as well. But they'll be in touch with you too. So look, there is a lot of work, Roisin, in both of those applications. Like you said, open up your CEO account early, get your CEO number because you'll need your number for the supporting documentation. Put your CEO number on each page of there or here, the supporting documentation you're sending in. It makes it a lot easier for everybody as well. But, and Roisin, you'll probably concur with this advice. Absolutely. Talk to your guidance counselor about all of this. We're just giving a little piece of advice here and some information, but the important thing is to go to your guidance counselor and they will certainly advise you on both of these processes.
Yeah, absolutely. Because as you said earlier, Donnchadh, there's a lot in this, and a lot of the forms that you're going to be asked to submit, some students may not have come across them before, or they may not have heard about them before. So just linking in with your guidance counselor, so you have absolute clarity on what you need and where you need to go to get it. And again, don't leave it until the middle of February to be looking for these forms, because you're
Yeah.
going to be under pressure. If you can do it this side of Christmas and
Yeah.
figure out exactly what you need, then you'll have some time in the new year when the offices are open, but maybe you're not back in school, to go in around and get these documents in order.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I'm not one for, I don't like deadlines. I like to have everything done and dusted long before the deadline. But listen, Roisin, thank you so much for taking the time to come on and explain to us about the here and there process. And we'll talk to you very soon.
Fantastic. Thank you, Danica.